Outside space has become something of a sought-after aspect to life these days with lockdown, and a lot of people in the cities now are looking to move to the countryside. We're lucky enough to have been living in the countryside for some years, and as regular subscribers will know, I tend to feature some of the shots of the garden and the surrounding areas in quite a lot of the videos, because our link to nature and to the environment in the wider context is, to my mind, absolutely crucial. I've had several people ask if they can see some shots of the garden to understand the layout and all that sort of thing. Today it's a little bit different. I'm just going to give you a bit of a guided tour in a nice relaxed way around the garden, and what you'll be surprised at perhaps is that it is very much a work in progress. There are lots and lots of weeds. Some people think that we own all of this land here and these barns and this sort of stuff, but we don't. This is nothing to do with us. Our perimeter is this wall at the front and the whole garden area around the back, which is not that huge. So here we are at the front of the house. This part of the house is some 500 years old, and that actually is where my office is, on the ground floor. What you'll also see here is that the house appears to be missing part of it there. That's because at some stage in the past there was a fire and that part got destroyed. This is down here on the ground floor. That is the window to my office, and what you can see there is some pretty impressive lilies that I planted, and a little sunflower just sort of developing there on the left, which is rather nice. These lilies are amazing, and really fond of those. They're lovely. They come up really early in the spring and just keep growing and then flowering at this time of year, which is you know, mid-August really. And then we've got some penstemon down here. You'll understand a bit more why this is so weedy when we go round the back. Super hosta in a pot just there. So this is an area of the garden that I do actually sit out and use that table to do some writing. We'll just move along here. There's a little clematis. There's so many clematises left by the previous owners. Now, one of the reasons why it is quite so weedy, there's a nice dragon that I picked up some years ago, is because we are doing up the house. It was owned by the same couple and family for some 30 years, 35 years actually, before we bought it. They had not been living here for some 7 years. So as you can imagine, the garden had got very wild indeed. If we come up here up the bridle path, we get to a side gate. It's beautiful with these lovely old walls, and the moss on here is absolutely incredible. But that does indicate how much dampness we get up here, how much rain. Anybody that knows Yorkshire will know that you don't come to Yorkshire for the sunshine. So as we come in the back here, what you'll see is work in progress. Like I said, work in progress all the way through. This is has a lovely clematis there. Again, this was something that was left by the previous owners. There's lots of wonderful climbers that they had, and we've tried to keep as many of the wonderful specimens that they had as possible. Now, what we've got here is where I'm putting in some raised beds, and I'm using this local stone as the sides to the beds. So at the moment, I mean, they look like just sort of precariously balanced walls, but that'll all be filled with soil and compost and organic matter, and we'll see how that goes with growing veg. So we'll have 4 beds over here fairly soon. It's this whole area was actually covered in concrete when we moved in, so although it looks as though I've got a lot of work to do, I've done a huge amount already to get to this stage. So, and we're using up the loose stone, which is lovely. Now, this is quite interesting. Just here, this tree is actually what we had been using for several years as our Christmas tree, but we planted it out and it is doing absolutely fantastically well. You can see maybe some of the green, the lighter green growth on it. I don't know whether you can tell or not, but some of that growth this year has really been put on. It's quite remarkable. Now, what is interesting about this is that we dowsed for where that tree would be happy to be planted. And like I said, this area was all concrete and you couldn't see what was what. And we dowsed to put the tree there. We asked where would the tree like to be, and that's where it was affirmative. But this wall wasn't there. I've built this wall. I mean, as you can see, it's all a bit higgledy-piggledy like most things I do, but I quite like that. And as we dug down to plant the tree, we actually realised that it had chosen to be just off the concrete area, so it was just in the soil. So that was fantastic. And the first year that it was planted, it was obviously establishing roots, but now it's really started to take off, which is fantastic. Now, because I only get a few hours every weekend, you can see that this bed has just rocketed away with weeds. In the spring it comes up with some fantastic tulips, but now it is all just basically these amazing poppies which are going to continue to spread everywhere. So it's going to be a lovely flower bed when we get to it. So this is basically the vegetable garden, and this side, this fence, was actually a fence that I made out of pallets, so reusing the pallets. And we've done that to separate out the veg bed from the rest of the garden. You know, it's okay. It's quite an interesting design, I think. Up the end of the garden here is, if you can see that wall, another stone wall there, and a bit more pallet fencing. So I've put that pallet fencing in, and I've put in that wall as well, again to define the space. So let's go up there and I'll show you what's going on up there. Again, covered in weeds, but we come through here. Got a lovely Irish yew there, which is fantastic. Built a couple of these beds here at the back because again wanted to define a sort of woodland area. It's all a bit crazy along here, but I'll show you that in a sec. Going this way, we come round and we do a little bit of a dog leg. There's the wall that I built that's now currently got strawberries on it. Again, most of these strawberries get eaten by the birds, and that's fine by us at the moment. We're going to transplant those. It was an idea that we had to plant the strawberries in the top of this wall, but really it's not suitable for them. We redesigned this bed. This path was here by the previous owners. We've put in these ferns over here, so there's some rather lovely ferns in there. Again, very shaded in this part of the garden. And here you'll see a few more lilies. Do like these lilies. I think these were lilies, these were Primrose Hill. They're pretty substantial. Now in there also, let's just show you some of these. There's about 3 different types of red hot poker. There's a little one there in the front, and again covered in weeds, but there in the middle, those have actually you know, flowered in the middle, and there's some more at the back, some bigger ones at the back. Cocosmia, you know, so that's all great, and another little clematis. So this is the far corner, opposite end at the back of the garden, and this is a woodland area. There's so many trees here. We've got this fantastic wall at the back. Again, some of you may recognise parts of this. Done some videos at the back here when it wasn't quite so overgrown. At the moment it is completely and utterly a stinging nettle bed. I haven't had any time to work on any of this area, but we will. A fantastic wild rose there, just going nuts, and this rather glorious birch tree, which is, I do love birch trees, they really are fantastic. Now this is Max, so this is our other cat. Now he's 17. Unfortunately he is on his last days, so we're waiting for him to either make up his mind to move on himself, or I'm going to have to take him to the vet any day now. But there you go, that's Max. He's a lovely cat, absolutely fantastic. He's had a heck of a life, really adventurous, so bless him. Anyway, so this is the view towards the house from where we were. What you will notice straight away about the back of the house as we look at it from this position is that there's this rather ugly pipe, waste pipe, running horizontally around the back of the house. Now that is the side of the house where my office is, and that was on our list of priorities to remove when we bought the place, but we've actually changed our priorities and that's slipped way down the list. But yeah, it really, in terms of feng shui, well, not a good thing to have. But there you go. I mean, you know, we put in place changes and things and it's all okay. There's the boiler house, and then there's the really old and horrible shed, but you know, another birch tree, which is fantastic. And what you will have noticed is the roof of the house is absolutely covered in moss here at the back. One of the jobs we've done is to take down a chimney that was no longer required in a back room. That's why that space is there without the moss. Looking back this way to where we were, and just see the cats arguing a bit there. This bank is something that I've put in. And again, all of this grass, let's come back here, show you the grassed area. So again, all of this grass was actually concreted over. It was all concrete. They had, that's just the way they wanted their garden. So we've dug all up all that concrete, laid the grass, laid the turf. That was concreted there as well. There was a whole row of fir trees that we had to pull out. What we have done, because we're very aware that the amount of trees we had to take out in order to get some light into this space was quite substantial, and that was a lot of cover for the birds. So we have planted a few small conifers at the back there in that far corner. I didn't show you them, but they are there. We are very mindful of the wildlife here, and we're very grateful for the amount of wildlife we get. So we have planted to try to look after the wildlife and be appreciative of it. So, and really that's it. I mean, that is our garden. We do have these rather amazing triffid-like plants here, which are huge and have kept and continually grown and increased and taken over this bed. There are some fantastic unusual plants in there, but you'd never see them, so we've got to do something about that. But again, time. It really is time, and this bed is getting eaten alive by, or covered in, this other weed stuff. Just there, just in case you're interested, that little corrugated roof there is a spare, it's a generator, backup generator that we've got. But there you go, so that is the garden, but that's it. That is the space that we own. And you can see it standing here on the grass, just panning around. This is delineated by that lovely dry stone wall. And there's the veggie garden where we came in. There's the gate, and back round to the house. That's it, that's us. Not acreage at all, and definitely a work in progress. So I hope you've enjoyed that little tour around. Take care, bye bye.